You must tell me all your secrets. Remember, we must share everything together. Everything.
Hi, my name is Annie Rose Malamet, and you're listening to the first episode of Girls, Guts, and Giallo. This podcast will be an archive of the feminine image in horror, exploitation, erotic, thriller, and sometimes comedy and drama films. I mostly will focus on what I usually or sometimes refer to as trash cinema. So that will be films that are typically seen by the mainstream as exploitative or overly sexual, but sometimes we will be looking at films that have been respected and well received and accepted by the mainstream. And I will go into why I want to talk about that particular film when I do. So I use the language here, the archive of the feminine image. We will mostly be looking at representations of women in particular, but we'll sometimes look at representations of femme men, which is why I use inclusive language here. And sometimes we will look at representations of female masculinity. But I am mostly interested in representations of femininity because that is where my interest lies as a femme lesbian. That is just what I've always been drawn to and interested in, and that is where most of my knowledge is. The films that we're going to be looking at here are difficult in subject matter. They often contain overt representations of sexuality, sexual violence, general physical violence, just generally things that could be considered triggering or upsetting to people. So I'm not going to give too many specific trigger warnings when I discuss specific films. I'm going to assume that you're aware of these things if you're interested in hearing about films like this. So that my intro here is just to give a general trigger warning for anything that we will be discussing. I wanted to start this project because I have always been interested and passionate about films that are typically deemed as trash or problematic or have been derided by most mainstream feminists. I consider myself a feminist, and I've been using that word to describe myself for a long time, probably since high school, early high school. But I am often unsatisfied with mainstream feminist analysis of media. I feel that a lot of the analysis is superficial level and reactionary to just seeing women's bodies in distress, which I completely, actually very much understand that reaction. But as someone who has always been drawn to media that is considered upsetting or violent or misogynist, I felt that it was important for me to archive why these films are important to me and why I believe that they are actually, in some cases, not harmful to women. I think that they show interesting and complex female characters. I don't think that women need to always be heroes or be perfect in order for us to respect their journey. Part of why I'm drawn to films like this is because living as a woman, living as a feminine person in this world is a very scary thing. It's not fun. And of course, it can be wonderful. I love being a femme woman. But the specter of violence and degradation and discrimination, misogyny, is always at my shoulder. So I actually find it very cathartic and healing to watch and see that reality reflected back at me. Whether the director, the writer, usually men, intended that or not, that is not so important to me, the intention behind the film. What's more important to me is how it can be received by the women watching it, and how the women or the feminine characters in those films are portrayed, and what that says about our culture, and often what it says about what Kier Janice, a film critic who wrote the book House of Psychotic Women, says about female neuroses and violence against women. I hope you enjoy what I have to offer to the conversation here. Please give me a follow at Girls, Guts, and Giallo. You can also follow my personal account at fatgawth, FATGAWTH. And thank you for listening and for coming on this journey with me. I'm sitting in my closet talking into a microphone. It feels kind of weird and unnatural, but I'm really excited for what the potential that this project has in my own life, and hopefully in contributing to the larger conversation around quote unquote problematic media and what to do with that history, because it is a rich one and it is a fascinating one. Please look for new episodes of this podcast every Friday, wherever you listen to podcasts. And until next time, I'm Annie Rose Malamet.